And we're here. Just turn that music down a little bit. And I just had to fix up my microphone, but that should all be working now. So I'll just quickly test that. Alrighty, we're good to go. So lately I've been going back to Major Nelson's FPS Boost page. So if we just give that a quick Google. So FPS Boost is a thing on the Xbox where for older titles it can run at increased frame rates and all sorts of other things. Well, I guess it is just increased frame rates, but I believe sometimes there may be HDR improvements or something. Anyway, so there's this page. I would like to know when it gets updated, because sometimes if a game gets added, I want to know, so maybe I can go play it, because maybe I want to go play Battle Chasers Night War at 120 frames a second. So today I'm going to build a tool, and I'm going to have it run once a day, and it's going to check this page for updates. And then yeah, I'll either make it send a Slack notification, or maybe I'll have a Twitter bot. We'll see. So I do know I am going to do this in C# because I'm going to run on AWS Lambda. So I have Visual Studio here, and I'm just going to go through a quick breakdown of what I think I'm going to do. So if how do we do it? Let's check out this page source. So here's all the HTML that is created by the page. In particular, we're looking for this table here. So you can see here it says last updated. Then we have some figure element and some divs, and then we have this nice big table. And I'm willing to bet if I just hit delete, the whole table is gone. So that is the table we want. Sometimes these things are generated after the page is loaded through an AJAX request. So we just want to make sure that it isn't. Otherwise, we're going to have to figure out how to do that. So one way I like to do that is if you go to the Inspect tab and go to Network and reload the page, and then you change this request here to XHR. You can see there are some things loaded, but nothing that's like a table. So then let's check out this one. If we just go develop and we want to go show page source. So page source will exist before the JSON does stuff. So if we scroll down, oh, and there we go. There's the table we're looking at before. There's the figure. And we got it all. So what we want to do is go through each one, loop through each TR element, so that's a table row, and then look at the different columns. So then we can just note down that Lego The Hobbit supports 120 Hertz, supports 60 Hertz. And yeah, and then we'll record all that to a file. We'll rerun that in 24 hours, and if the file has changed at all, I can make it do something, so then we're up to date and knowing what the heck is going on. Now, because I want to run this as a AWS Lambda function, which means it can just run off in the cloud and I don't have to worry about it, I do need to create a AWS Lambda project. Now, I don't know how to do that off the top of my head, so I'm always Googling for AWS.NET Lambda tutorial. And one of these pages somewhere has the key information that I want. Ah, there it is. We got it on first shot. Cool. So what we're going to do is we'll just go to our projects directory, and then there's something else I like to do is I like to create a VS Code window, and I'll just put in the commands that I'm gonna run, just so I have a nice reference, and if I ever need to edit them, we can do that. So let's run this. This is going to download a whole bunch of templates that AWS can have for us, and what we want is this one, empty function. So I do know I'm about to use this, so let's copy that one out. Let's go back to the website, and they want us to run this. So the function type is not serverless.empty serverless. The function type is actually lambda function.empty, and the name is going to be something else. Make sure that's all moved into place. Last time I streamed, I muted myself to take a drink of coffee, so you didn't hear all the slurps, and forgot to unmute myself for like 10 minutes. It was great. Alrighty, so we want our function to have a name, so let's call it FPS Boost Notifier. FPS Boost Notifier. I am also regularly creating typos at work, and only during this week we found out that some infrastructure we have running isn't named correctly. It's just that I did the same typo everywhere, so that's fun. Cool, so now we've created this empty function. Let's go have a look at the folders that were created. We don't need this anymore. Let's just put that down there for now. So what it's done is it's created a source folder and a test folder with all of our source code in it. I don't like this, so I'm just going to move them both out to the main folder. We'll fix some stuff up there in a second. And what I'm also going to do is copy the name of project so we can create a blank project. Here we go, blank solution. I want it to be inside FPS Notifier. Or is this how I do it? This might crack the wobblies. Let's put these things back for now. Alright, so let's create that. Yeah, this is not what I want. Let's put that file there, delete this folder, that file there, then we can delete these two folders. This doesn't exist anymore, so we can remove that. And then we can run this. Boom, we're in. Now, this doesn't have any projects in it. So what we don't want to do is we just want to add existing project. We want to add the notifier, and we want to add the tester. I don't know why I add the tester. I never really write tests. Get rid of that folder. And what I also like to do is I like to have a project I call the runner. So at the moment, if you try run the notifier, it's not going to work because it's all expecting some Amazon stuff. I can run the tests one, but it's doing test stuff and I don't know what that is. So I create a runner. And now to create a runner, I'm just going to create a new project. It's going to be a console application, a .NET 3.1. We do have 5 and 6 available, but at the moment Lambda only supports 3.1, so everything's going to be 3.1. And I call it by the project name .runner. Now we can fix up some things. So we do want to make sure that this is our startup project. So when we hit the debug button, it'll be running this. There are a few other things that I know I'll want to change. So let's just run this. We should say hello world. And boom, down there. So that works. What I also like to do whenever I do these projects is I like to get rid of, use a specific configuration, pause on output, and run in terminal window. And so now when I actually run this, it's going to run here in application output instead of its own terminal window, which I find just so much nicer to visually see. So now we want our runner to run our Lambda function, which is this one. And so to do that, we are going to have to add a reference to it. So that way our runner knows how to do it. While I'm fixing references, I do know the tester is going to be broken, so I just have to untick and tick that. Also, incidentally, the runner is pretty much going to use the same code as the tester. So pull that out, put it here. Yep. So let's see what happens when we go to run it. Nougat packages need to be restored. Okay, so we will restore the Nougat packages. We'll try again. The type or namespace test lambda context could not be found. Yes, because in this project, the runner, it doesn't know what a lambda test context is. Now it is in here, it is in amazon.lambda.test utilities. So we're just going to add that Nougat package. Amazon lambda test. There we go. That's from Amazon Web Services, so we know it's the right one. And now this still won't run because our code here doesn't actually still know what this is. But if we click this little hint, it'll just tell us, hey, let's add that. Alrighty, so now can we run? It's thinking about it. Did it run? Maybe it did run. It finished running. What a crazy world. So let me output this and we'll just make sure it is doing what we expect. Yes, it's doing what we expect. So how the Lambda function is going to work is we create a schedule that says, hey, every morning at 7 a.m. run and go do the stuff. And so that stuff will be this function here that gets called. We can pass it some input. It goes and does some stuff. and then we can either choose to have stuff returned or not. Something else I like to do is I like to have input and output classes. Even though we don't necessarily have any input or any output, just makes me feel good. So pretty much the output, let's just let's have a boolean of success. So if for some reason we couldn't do our stuff, we can return false, and then someday I can make Amazon do stuff if this is false. One thing I'm also going to add is a attribute called JSON property name. Now what this does is we're going to encode this to JSON. So it's going to be a string, and I can show an example of what this is going to look like in a second. But what this will do is, hey, in the JSON, we're going to use the name success with a lower s, and in the class, we're going to use success with a capital S. Now, again, it's complaining that it doesn't know what this is, so the little helpful tip, click that, boom. Using system.text.json.serialization. Input, we currently have no input, so that's fine. And now our function. So our function is going to return an output, and we're going to take an input. So what we can do here is we can go var output equals new output. Bada bing, bada boom. We return the output, and so now if we try to run this, it's going to complain because we just changed some big things and it needs to know about them. So one of the things we changed is we changed the property of, or the argument of this method function handler from a string to an input class. So over here, we're going to want an input. Input equals new input. We put that in there. That'll make that happy. Then this here is actually going to be an output. So this is where I can actually show you the JSON stuff I was just talking about. So something else I like to do is I like to have the input and the output displayed in my little console when I run it, so I can see exactly what happened. And so to do that, we do a console.writeLine. I'm going to say this is the input. And then we're going to do a system.text.json.json0. Yes, got it right. So what that'll do is that will actually take an object and return a JSON string. So let me just tidy this up. And something else I like to do is if you're going to return a JSON string, actually I'll show that in a second. So that's our input. This is our output. So now if we run it again, we're going to get some more stuff happen. So there's the input and output of this. Actually, do you know what? I believe if I change that setting, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Now I'm going to change it back. Change it back. Cool. So let's just say our input had a property on it. Let's call it input string. Just add a get set. And just like our output, we write a JSON property name here, and I'm going to call it input string. Just tidy that up again. So now let's add an output string in our output. We probably won't keep this. I just wanted to show this JSON stuff doing stuff things. Well, let's go number of letters. Here we go. It's going to be an integer. All right, so now in, oh no. I hate this bug. So Visual Studio thinks I've tried to drag and drop a page. I didn't. And now it's just stuck here like this. So get to restart Visual Studio. So what we can do now with our input is we had input string, and let's make it say hello world. And then in our function, we want the output. We want to assign the number of letters equal to the input.inputString.length. So that way, whatever we pass in as input, it's going to be the input string. We get how long it is, and we're also going to output .success equals true. Now when we run this, you can see input string is hello world, success is true, and number of letters is 12. Now if I quickly grab this and come over to our output and put it here, you can see here success is written in lowercase and number of letters has got underscores, and that's what this JSON property name is doing. I am going to do one more thing with the serializer. Is I'm going to use something called JSON serialization options. JSON serializer options, and I'm just going to tell it to write indented because that's so much nicer. And so this will be a second parameter of serialize. So now when we run it again, keeping in mind that this is how it looked last time. Now it's nice and folded out like this. Alrighty, so now we can actually get onto the juicy bits. Not again. Like, it's crazy. Like, I've even closed the project and this thing is still here. That's what I think about that. Alrighty, so here we don't actually have to do anything with our input and output. I just like to have them. They don't make a lot of use in this particular scenario. Pardon me. Let me just get another drink. Yeah, so they don't make much Much point here, but as I said, maybe I'll come back and I'll do something with them later. So now, what we want to do is we want to pretty much download Major Nelson's website here. So I'm just going to copy the URL. And we're going to create a HTTP client. So that will allow us to access the internet and access content on the internet, I should say. Now wrap it in a using statement just because it's force a habit, it tidies things up. But some people also think it is messy, but we will see how we feel about that after. Now we want to call http client.get get string async. So that'll essentially go to the website and get all of the page source and return it to us. So I'm going to put in Major Nelson's website there. Now, because this is async, we do need to change some things around. So it's going to return a task, and a task is something that we can await on and do some fun C# stuff. So what this also means now is that if we await on this task, it's now going to be upset because it says, hey, you can't await on something that's not an async method. So it's all right, well, this is an async method. Now this is upset. It's like, oh. I was confused what that message was. Was that? So the return type of the async method must be void, task, or task T. So in our case, we're returning output, which is none of those. So we're going to output task output. And now look, all the problems are going away, except in our so now we got some very funny stuff in our output here. So I'm surprised that run, but I guess it makes sense. So what's actually happening here is when we call our function, it's returning a task, not an output. So what we want to do is now we want to await this because we want to wait for the task to be complete. And now we get to play that exact same game again. Hey, you can't await in something that's not async. That's all right, it's async. I don't like async void, so I'm going to make this async task. Just, I don't know, force a habit. And so if we just quickly look, last time we ran, we got this output, which we didn't write any of this stuff. So let's run it again. Much better. We got our output function here. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So this here should actually be downloading the page. So let's have a look. Let's just output all of the page content. Is it gonna, and look, there it is. You have it all. Now, some of this is JavaScript, and so because we're just downloading the text, the JavaScript isn't actually going to run. But just a sanity check, let's look for our table. That's not the table we're after. Wait, where's our table? Featuring FPS Boost back in February. Oh, I see what's going on. This is where they updated it. So right here, because they've got some sort of system that outputs their web page, the web page itself is just going to be really, really wide. You can see down here in the bottom left how small that scroll bar is. So yeah, rest assured the content is here. Excellent, excellent, What else can we do? I might change this around just a little bit. I'm going to change this to get async. So now this is going to return a HTTP response message. So what we are going to do now is just going to make sure the status code is okay. So let's just make sure the page didn't 404 or anything like that. So now in our else here, we can do report error. So maybe if they change this over to be on xbox.com instead of majornelson.com, we can get a message saying, hey, it's not there. So now with our response, now that we know it's an okay response, we should be able to do something similar to our read async. So we should be able to go response.content. There we go. Read as string async. We need to await this one, because if we're using async, we definitely want to await it. We'll just sanity check this one more time that the content is coming through as expected. Yep, it's still here. Sweet. So this here, we can just set our output.success equals false. Something I actually do like to have in an output is message. So now what I can write is I can have a message here that says response status code not expected. And we can write, oh, this needs a little $! sign in front of it, and now we can write response dot status code. So now let's just I'm just gonna keyboard mash that. So we're gonna go to a web page that doesn't exist. So what should happen is the status code should be not found, and we should see this in our output. So let's have a look. Yep, there we go. Response status code not expected, not found. So I'm also going to get rid of, in our output, just get rid of number of letters. We don't need that anymore. And in our input, we don't need this input string anymore. So we're just going to tidy things up a little. Cool. So now we have our HTML. Oh, after I fix this. All right, so now we have our HTML. So what we want to do now is we actually want to look at how do we get the HTML out and sort of parse it, iterate over each element in that table so we can get the game details out of it. So just so we can look, let's go and let's write the web page to a file. So file dot. Now file's not here, so we're going to hover over this and use our little helper importy thingy. So we're going to write all text. So we're going to write it to output.html. We're going to put page content there. So now if we run this, that did its thing. And so now if we actually go to output folder, we should actually see, there it is, the output.html. So we just wrote this to the hard drive. So let's have a look. Yes, I trust this. It's very annoying that my Visual Studio is in light mode, but Visual Studio Code is in dark mode. We'll fix that another day. So now if we come down, we will eventually find the table. So what we want to do is we want to figure out how can we know that the table we're looking at here it is. How can we know that the table we're looking at is the table we want? I'm going to go out on a limb and hopefully find that WP block table only exists once. So it's good to know. How about table? How many times is table? Well, there's also only one table on this page, so we can. I don't know what the figure HTML element is. I think let's look for table. So what we're going to do is we're going to search all the source code. We want to find this. And then at some point, we're going to find the other one. So what I can do to make this a little more readable, I don't have the option to format it. Okay, then. I know at the end of this big chunk, there's this slash table. So what we're going to look for is we're going to look for something that ends with this, but something that starts with this. Now, I don't know what all these other things are. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete a bunch of this stuff. It's nonsense. So what we are going to look for is we're going to look for this figure tag. I'm just trying to think, will this break easy? No, I think it's fine. Let's do it easy. So we're just going to look for table, t-head, slash t-body, slash table, and here's going to be stuff. So what we want to do is we want to copy out all of this, include a few lines before it and a few lines after it. We want to paste it in here. Now we want to just delete a large chunk of it. TD. Let's go to there. So now we can just pretend that this is the entire web page it comes in. And we want to find the bit of the stuff that's table. What we want to do is go to regex101.com. I go here anytime I need to do regular expressions. So what we can do is we can do a thing called a regular expression, which is sort of like a funny way to tell the computer, it's like, hey, look for text that matches these patterns. So if I just write here, table, you can see here it's matched table, 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 table. Now, not all of that is exactly what we want. We want something that starts with a less than sign and has a greater than sign. Now, so it did find it. We also know it has a T head, and we know it has stuff. And then at the end, we know it ends in /T body /table. Now it's upset at me because we have these slashes. So it thinks that we're using the slashes for other things, but we're like, no, just literally look for a slash. So we want to do what's called escaping it, and we want to add a backslash in front of it. So now this is happy, except for the bit where it doesn't know what stuff is. So we're also going to now have to change this. So what you can do with regular expressions, and it's my favorite one because it's so lazy, is you tell it you want to find a group of items. The dot means it's any character, and the asterisk means I want to find this character unlimited amount of times. So pretty much just says, hey, give me all the characters, and it does it. Now you can see here that we've got a match. Yeah, we got a match. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this out now, and in here we want to create a regular expression. So we want to create a regex. And we want to put our thing in. Thing like that. And then once again, I'm just going to use the little helper tool and tell it to bring in the regular expressions, which was using system.text.regular expressions. Alrighty, so now we have a regular expression. We want to apply this to the page content, and then we want to get the match out of it. So we're going to do regex.match, and then we're going to pass it the page content. And we're going to call that match, and then we're going to say, hey, if match is success. So if we did get a match, let's use the match. So how do we get the first match? Do we use square brackets? Is this what you want? Cannot use those. Is it dot groups? What are you going to return? You're going to return a group collection. So it's going to breakpoint here. Actually, I need to stop doing that. So I'm going to breakpoint here. So what we're going to do is we're going to run our code, and we're going to tell it to stop here so we can have a look if match was success, and then we're going to get to stop here to see if this is the correct way to get table out of this. So let's run. So match dot success. Hello. Oh no, what have I done? Okay, after all that, the intelligence now wants to work. So we can see success is true. So we're gonna run it over here and game table. Bada bing, bada boom. We have all of our game table here. Excellent. So now what we can do, we can shortcut this a little bit. No, let's not. So now what we're gonna do is we just want to go parse game table, parse game table. I'm gonna pass it to game table. So now what we can do is we'll use a little helpy thingy, tell it to generate this for us. We're going to call this method. So what this means now is we can minimize this and we can just focus down here on this, just inside here. Now, how are we going to get our game data out? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at the page source again. So let's just grab a few out. So these ones are going to be nicely formatted for us, which is excellent. And this is going to be such T body, and this is going to be such table. So I can see, no, I don't want to save it. What I can see is that up here we have a heading. Yeah, so up here we have a heading. We have a title, and then we have Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and then off by default. So if we just bring up our page next to it. Yes, and that's what we see. We have the title, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, off by default. And then for each one, we can see we have a TD. What does TD stand for? I know TR is like table row, but it's not table column. TD. Data. There you go. Contains data. Okay, so this one has data. We can see it's a link. And we can see the game name is there. And then we can see these values. So this TD matches up with this TH, which is title. The next one, 60 Hertz here, matches up with Xbox Series X. The third one lines up with the third one, Xbox Series S. And then the last one lines up with the last one here. So what we're going to want to do is have some way to loop over all of these elements. Now, I think we can do it with XML, because HTML is sort of XML. Let's have a look. How do you parse XML? XML document. You load it. We can load the XML. Then we can go over the nodes. Let's see if this works. Just going to rename some of these things. So we're going to create a new XML document. Oh, it might. I'm going to pass in the game table. So that should load it. If we can go back to this. So for each node in the XML document, just going to breakpoint here. And we're going to have a look. And we're just going to run this and see what the heck happens. Well, it did not like that. Reference to undeclared entity NBSP. So, in that case, let's have a look if you can parse HTML and C#. So if there's a NuGet package. HTML agility pack. Where are their samples at? Probably on their website. Documentation. So that's mostly what we got. So let's see if we can use this. So we're going to add a NuGet package called HTML Agility Pack. I don't know why I muted myself with that button, because that button doesn't mute me here, but I almost sneezed everywhere. We don't want that. So, from looking at this thing, we might just even be able to give it the URL. Yeah. Well, we got this far. We'll ignore it for now. We can add that in later. It'll just change that first bit of code. All right, so we have HTML Agility Pack installed. And so what we want to do, pretty much replace all of this code with this code. And now again, import the stuff, get rid of the squigglies. So what is this going to do? It's going to create a HTML document class. It's going to load the HTML. It's going to try to get the body. We don't really have a body, so I'm going to skip over that. We're just going to look at child nodes. I think I also just got a delivery, so let's quickly run this before I run off. So there was one child node, so what we want to do, we're going to call this a table node. Now if we run this again, how many child nodes does table node have? Should have 2. It has 2. And so if we go back to our HTML, these child nodes will be this one and this one. So what we might want to do is we might want to validate that the first node has 1 node, and then that 1 node has 4 nodes, and that the 4 nodes properties are title, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and off by default. So if anything changes on the website will fail to run, and we will be notified about this. I need to go quickly grab my delivery, so I will be back in 1 minute. And we're back. Whew, I hate living in a house with stairs. Alrighty, so we're just going to do some validation in here. So what we want to do, let's just make sure what we get passed in so we want to make sure that table just has 1 element in it. Now there is a, what was the other one? Let's have a look. T head. So now we want to say if, let me just stop debugging. So if table node.children, child nodes dot count equals 2, because we know there's going to be 2. We want to proceed. And we want to say if I'm just going to copy this one in. Okay, so if sphere T head fed, as it looks like it's written. So that's going to be this, and I think it's T body. It's going to be number 1. So if T-ed dot child nodes dot count is 1, because there should only be TR, and it's probably a much better way to do everything I'm doing right now. So what we're going to say is if T-ed has 1 child node, and if that child node has 4 nodes, we know these are these ones. We know we're safe to proceed here. And then what we want to do is just going to do a old school, just for loop. I never write for loops anymore. It's always for each loops. And what we want to get is the child node. And then we want to get its inner HTML, I think is the property. So what we're going to call this is header name. So now, if I breakpoint on this, what I think will happen is it'll run through, it'll get the first header name of title, and we can see that, boom. We can see Xbox Series X is the next one. We can see Xbox Series S is the next one. And then we can see off by default on Series X. Cool, so that works. So this is just a validation at the moment. So it's still just validating, making sure all this stuff's right. Because if it ever changes, I don't want the code to sort of adapt and try figure out, oh, they've swapped these 2 tables around. I just want it to fail and say, nah, not happening, guy. So what we can do here is if this 0.innerHTML equals title, and actually what I think I want to do is if change these to ors, change those to not equals. So now what we can do is if these things are not what we expect, I don't like throwing exceptions. Let's just return false. Let's just bool. So parse game table is going to return a boolean. So it's going to return a false if the titles don't match. It's going to return false if the header isn't right. If anything else happens, so we're going to have a fallback all the way through there. So what's going to happen is we're going to come in if this isn't the table node, if the table node doesn't have 2 nodes, if the two nodes and whatever the titles aren't this, we're just going to return. So by the time we get to here, we know the headers are what we expect, which is good. Good. So now what we can do is for each of the T-body. So now let's just copy in the T-bodies. This is actually going to be game row. So it's going to be table node. No, this is T-body. Children, child nodes. Alright, so this for each loop is going to loop over these. And so each game row is talking about this. So if game row.child nodes.count doesn't equal 4, just return false. So if for some reason there is 3 elements here, we're just going to quit because this isn't right. So we need 4. So that's good. Now what we can do so we know title is going to be the first one. Oh, can I just... Let's go into HTML. Then we have Xbox Series X. Just call it Series X. We have Series S. And then we have off by default Series X. Wonder why there's no off by default Series S. So again, we're just going to breakpoint here, and we'll see what happens when we run this. So we got our first element. So we have this thing, which is actually just a link, which we can use in a second. We have Series X records 60, Series S records 60. Why is the first game Dark Souls 3? It's not Dark Souls 3. Wonder how it's ordered by default for it to be so confused. Cool. Alrighty, so we now have this stuff. So we can make a game class now. Now a game is going to have a title. A game is going to have Series X FPS. Series S FPS. Pardon me, I'm sorry if I burped. I'm very burpy today. My body is no good. Off by default, Series X. Now, this is going to be a boolean. So it's going to be bool. think what I want to do is create an enum. Can enums... Can enums be numbers? No. What could that enum be? Let's have a look what other people are doing. Yes, this. Interesting. So we can... I don't like it. But allegedly we can have description. Actually, do you know what we can do? We can just do this. We can put that as 160, 16, that's 120. And then we can have these two as FPS. Title, off by default. Cool, cool, cool. I also want to bring in the JSON property. Name, title. Bada bing, bada boom.
So that they're aware of what they're doing and they're making conscious choices.
It's going to be Series X FPS. Is Series X and Series S one word? No. Cool, cool, cool. Just making sure the things are named nicely. Off by default. Series X. Cool, cool, cool. So we got that.
I don't have a lot of patience for people who feel like they're downloading from the cosmos. You know, just like, that's how it came out. Okay, great. Now let's make it better. But, you know, just writing from a place of understanding rather than from a place of fear. Where you're just grateful for any idea that comes along. And you don't want to change it because you don't know how.
Okay, so what we're going to do... I can do fancy switches here.
It's not about the ideas, it's about how you support the ideas.
So game.series... So Series X is first. Equals. Now we're going to take this. We're going to put it into a switch. So this might get a bit funky. What we're going to do is if the value is 60 Hertz, we're going to return FPS.60. If the value is 120 Hertz, we're going to output 120. I really don't like throwing exceptions, but maybe this is just how we have to do it. Invalid FPS detected. really don't like that, but what can you do? So now this is row 2, row 2. It's a series S. Now we are going to have to fix the game title in a second. But we have that, we have that. Now what is passed in for this tick box? I guess if there's anything... Oh, look, hey, this can also be not available. Alright. So, this should be FPS Boost. Not available should be 0. And we have 6120. And then this should be FPS Boost. Boop, boop. And then that's FPS Boost, FPS Boost. Where'd we go? Not available. Yep, so we got this, so that we're covered for that. And then this is going to be like a tick box or something. What? I don't know what this tick is, but apparently it's just text, so... Valid off by default value detected. Sure. And so for now, let's just do game.title equals title. Now, what we can also do is we want to create a list of games. List game. Boop, boop, boop. And now what we can do is bear list games. So we create the game, we set the values, we add the game to our list. And now at the bottom, we can do console. So we pretty much what we want to do is what is in the runner. So let's just run this and see what happens. I'm hoping for a big list of games to be output. We got it. Are any of these... Yeah, look, off by default, Series X is true. Bingo bango, folks. And I just spilled some coffee everywhere. Why? is brown now, it's not white. Outside. At least I don't have any sugar in my coffee, so I won't get ants. Ah! Also, at least it didn't go on my computer. Well, that's something to clean up later. I mean, it was bound to happen at some point, right? So anyway, everything's working good. We got this, so we do need to fix title. So I think what we actually should do is like maybe sometimes these games won't have a link, so it's just going to be text. So what we could do, if we change this to title node. Now, if title node dot children child nodes dot count, if it's 1, so we assume anchor tag. Otherwise, we don't assume. So what we do then is the game.title is going to be this.inner HTML. This should probably be inner text, I'm pretty sure. But I'm going to use inner HTML because there may be other things that come through later that if they change the page, so maybe they add like a little asterisk next to it with more details, we can get those details. Yeah, so maybe in future if they add little asterisks here and some extra HTML, it's like it's a button or something, we want to know if the page changes so we can adjust the code to do so. So we got the title, we got the game title. Something else we might want is the game URL. So just going to default these to string.empty because I don't like nulls. No one likes nulls. I hope that coffee isn't seeping somewhere it shouldn't. So annoying. So I assume this anchor tag property. So if we go game.url equals anchor tag dot property dot. So what I'm trying to get is this bit for F. The href. What would you call that? Attribute? Let's see how well this goes. Let's try again. Yeah, no, that's not what we wanted. But title works better now. Alrighty, so how do we get the attribute? Is it like a dot value? Ah, there we go. Value. Boom. We got links now to games. Excellent. It HTML parsed the titles. Yeah. Okay. So if this was in a text, I'm pretty sure those games with the funny titles won't be funny titles anymore. Nah, I have no idea what I'm talking about, so just ignore me. Cool. So now we got those. Now the fun bit is... So what I want to do is in game, I want to create a method called hasChanged. So let's first return false. We add all the games. If we get to here, do I want to return false? No, do you know what I want to do? I want to return my list of games. And if we don't... Yeah, we want to return null if... Yeah, okay. I got this. Alright. So let's just quickly go fix our method declaration. So we're going to return a list of games. Now, if... So in these cases where we return false, we're going to return null now. And then that's null, that's null, that's null. These are still going to throw exceptions. Then we're going to do our games. And then here I want to return games. And then I want to return null at the very bottom. It's going to tell me I don't need that because I've handled every situation, but we're going to keep it there just in case. So that'll parse the list of old games. So now here we have a list of games. Alright, so we read in HTML, we get the table, we get that, we parse it to parse game table, we get a list of games output from that, and then we want to, essentially we want to write that to the file, I think. So we're going to copy this code again. Tidy that up. Games JSON equal. Actually, we don't want it to write to a file, but we do want to write it to a JSON string. So just to make sure everything's still working. Oh, actually, no, because here, if games is null, we want the output dot success to be false, and we want the message to be could not load games list from Major Nelson's site. Then we return that output. Boom. So we're just gonna exit early if that's the case. So now what we can do is here, let's just output the games JSON just to double check it's still working. Yep, we got all the games. Do you know what I wonder? I wonder. No, I was going to say, I wonder if this ID here is unique so that we can give each game its own ID, but nah. Nah, fam, as they say. Alright, so what we've done is we've passed the website, we got a list of the games and all of the properties for the games, but now we want to compare it with the unknown list. So because this is going to run on Amazon, I'm going to have a Amazon S3 bucket that's going to store the JSON. I'm going to load that JSON. I'm going to load the JSON from Major Nelson, and then I'm going to compare the two. So here is fake loading from S3. So just quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do file.write all text. I'm going to write the games JSON to games JSON s3.json. And so I just Bradley messed up. Write all text. The first parameter is the path, and the second parameter is the contents. It tried to make a file with a very long file name. That's why that errored. Cool. So that's out. If we go to our directory, we should have games s3 JSON. And so now if we open this up in Visual Studio Code, yep, this is a thing. Still not sure why Dark Souls 3 is up the top, but it is. Good for you, Dark Souls. Cool. So now this is the fake loading from S3. So what we are going to do is we're going to do file read all text. What was that file called again? Let's call this. So this is fake JSON from S3 equals file. We're going to read it all. Then we're going to JSON serializer.deserialize. We're going to deserialize a list of games. Hopefully this will all make sense in a second. And we're going to call this the previous games list. So this here is the current games list, and this is the previous games list. So now what happens is we have two lists of games. I'm going to fix this typo. We have two lists of games, one that we stored that we know is the current list of games, and one that we just load. Sorry, that's the previous list of games. One that we just loaded, that is the current list of games. So we're going to compare the two. So what we want to do is we want to say I want to report this in two ways. I want to report games. I want to report new games, and I want to report games that have changed. So let's write here to do new games, to do games that have changed. So we want to be notified of both of those things. So let's just double check everything is working again. So current games list, if my IntelliSense wants to work, is a list of 96 items. Previous games list is a list of 96 items. Good. Now what we are going to do, we are going to, from this one here, we're going to fake some data. So I like Watch Dogs 2, so we're going to delete it. So now what we're going to pretend is that the data we checked yesterday no longer has Watch Dogs 2, and the data from today does have it. So we want to alert that, hey, there's a new game added. So what we're going to do is, how do we do this? So we can compare the game title. So the game title shouldn't change. So we want to loop over for each their previous games list. Oops. For each their previous game. Now we want to loop over the current games and see if it's in the previous list. So for each game in current games list, let's change current to, let's change this to live. So that's the games that we just loaded. So for each game in the live games list, now can we use this any? Yeah, okay. So what we want to do is, if any in the previous game lists exist where the title equals the previous title, equals false, we want to add this to our new games list. So let's just create a new games list equals new list game, and then we want to add new games list dot add game. So previous games list, if it has any old title, so what this is doing is for every item in this list, it's going to say, hey, for each item we're going to call it X. And then if the X.title, which is the game in the previous game list, equals the new game title, equals false, which means if none of them match, we want to add it to the new games list. So let's run this. And when we stop here, new games list should have one item. Boom. And this should be Watch Dogs 2. Excellent. So now that was nice and easy. So now we have the new games list. What happens if they removed a game? So let's pretend they removed Untitled Goose Game. So I'm gonna do a little bit of hacky stuff. So what I'm gonna do is I'd have to remember to remove this. If game.title equals Untitled Goose Game, continue. So what we're going to do is if the game is Untitled Goose Game, we're going to continue. This continue means we go to the next item in our for each, which means we will not execute this code, which means Untitled Goose Game will not get added to our games list. So we also just discovered that we can see if they've removed a game. I didn't even think about that. So new games list should still be 1. Should still be Watch Dogs. New games list 1. Watch Dogs 2. So we also have removed games list, and I assume it's the same for each, but we're checking the lists in reverse now. So we're going to say for each game in the previous game list, if it's not in the live games list, we now want to add it to the removed games list. So C is, does removed games list contain untitled? Removed has 1. Boom, Untitled Goose Game. Excellent. Oh, I love when you're just doing stuff and you're like, oh, I could also do this. And it's not even what you intended to do. So this is check for new games. And then this one down here is check for removed games. And now here we want to check for changed games. Oh, now checked for game. Do you know what? I'll come to that in a second. So let's work on check on gamed. Pardon me. Check for changed games. So what we're going to do. It doesn't matter, I don't think, what order we do this for each hearing. Alright, so we're going to call first the default. So there. This is a live game. This is their previous game. Previous game. Previous games list. Cool. So we're also just going to check if previous game doesn't equal null. Just because when we call first the default, it doesn't if one's not found, we're going to return null. So we're just going to do this to double check. So what we're going to do is after we've checked all these things, we're going to check for every game in the live game list. We're going to get the first or default, so there should only be 1. We're not going to bother checking if there's multiple, because that's crazy. So we're going to get the first game from the previous games list, where the title equals the game, the live game title. So if I run this, what am I going to get? We're going to stop here. I don't know why my little IntelliSense isn't working. There we go. So live game is going to be Dark Souls 2, and then the previous game is going to be Dark Souls 3. So if the previous game doesn't equal null, so what we are going to want to do is if the previous game's not null, so there is in the list, and previous game dot has game changed, live game, we then want to add this to the changed games list. Now, has game changed doesn't exist, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to, hey, go generate that for me. So it should have gone and done it. Here we go. So what we want to do, we just pretty much want to compare the two games. So if this .title doesn't equal other game .title, or this .url doesn't equal other game .url, or this and this, or this and this, or just needed one more, this or this. Turn true. Otherwise, we return false. So, if the title has changed, well, because of our other code, that'll never be true. But let's just say the URL changed. So if the URLs don't match anymore, we're just going to return true because we say the game has changed. If the Series X FPS doesn't equal the other game, Series X FPS, so maybe they've upped the game from 60 to 80, to 120, we will be notified. So this will be true. Now, what we can also do to tidy this up a little bit is we can get rid of this, and instead of if, we can just return that. So what this will do is this will do the exact same thing. So if the URL doesn't equal, we're going to return true out of this, boom. But if the title's equal, the URL's equal, I'm pretty sure, pretty sure that if this is all as expected and they match, this should return false. So, well, we need some test data. That's what we need. So we are going to change 2-point hospital, and on the Series X, it can run at 120. And totally reliable delivery service, it's going to be off by Xbox, off by default on the Series X. So now, put a breakpoint here. I'm going to run this again. Oh, we have one too many parentheses. Oh no, the coffee got under my monitor mount. Alrighty, so we have hit this breakpoint. So let's have a look. The game that we're adding. Let's do it in here. Live games list. No, that's not what I want. Previous game. Totally reliable delivery service is getting thrown in here. Just getting popped, so it's like, yep. And there should be another one. 2-point hospital. Yep. And then that should be all. Excellent. Now, one thing that this is going to not be useful for is we don't know what was changed. We just know that there was a change. So what I actually want to do is change the changed games list to be a tuple. Is that what it's called? I think. So it's game old entry as game new entry. So then we can add. How do we add this? Yeah, just like this. The old game was previous game, and the new game is live game. So change games list has got 2 in it. So let's bring up the locals. Here we get this one. It's got 2 items. So the first item has got totally reliable delivery service. That's item 1, and then item 2. Totally reliable delivery service, and we can see here the off by default Series X has changed, so that's good. And now our other game, 2-point hospital, and we can see the Series X FPS has gone from 60 to 120. So that now works. So now we have a list of the change games. So what this means is that if the new games list the new games list is greater than 0, or previous game removed games list greater than 0, or changed games list is greater than 0, we want to notify. And then what we also want to do we want to upload to S3. So if we mock this up, this one, boop, boop. So we're just gonna do live game list, boop. All right, so this is our fake S3 upload. So what we're going to do is, hey, if there were any changes, we're going to notify, and then we're going to upload to S3 the old file. So that way when the code runs again and we get a file from Amazon S3, we will have the latest file, and we won't be notifying that, hey, 2-point hospital has been updated. We won't get notified every morning. So we're going to write this to there. So in my local copy here, I'm just going to copy it and paste it to our new file. So now we have a backup of that. And so let's get to notifying. I'm also going to set here output.success is true because, as they say, we managed to do everything. And I'm going to set this one to false here. Because this else here is from match.success. So this means, if you remember when we were reading the table, match.success. Yes, so this means we weren't able to find the HTML. So this is we're unable to find HTML table to parse. Now, just quickly while I'm tidying up other things, I do recall this here can throw an exception. Oh, we've got to remember to remove that. So this here can throw an exception. So what we're going to do is, where do we call this one? Here. We're just going to put it in a try catch. And we're going to catch an exception. And then we're going to put our output.success to be false. And then we're going to put our output.message. And then we're going to return the output. Now this did break something, but we will fix that in 1 second. So what this means now is now we've moved this, is that this live games list is now scoped in this tiny little area here between these two squiggly brackets. So what we want to do here is create a list of games called live games list. And then we set it in there. So what this means now that we've moved it out of that scope, which means if we get to here, just make it null. If we get to here, bad stuff happened. If this thing here threw an exception, if we catch it here, we say bad stuff happened. Otherwise, down here, we still have access to this list. Cool. So let's notify. I'm gonna do this with a string builder, I think. Just because we could do some things with it. So string builder just easily lets you like append line, and you just add a new line. It's very nice for building text output. So what we want to do is pretty much want to do for each one of these. So if this is notify of new games. This is notify of removed games. And then this here is notify of changed games. Push that down there. So now that we know new games are here, we can append line. New games. So we know that every time we come in here, there are going to be new games. What I'm also going to do is just append a blank line at the end, so we're going to get a nice separation. And we're going to just do this. We want to loop over For each new game in new games list, we want to output new game title. Even though we have those other properties, we don't really care about that for new game. And then we want to pretty much do the same for removed games. So for each removed game in the removed games list, we're going to add it to. And now for the list of changed, what should we do? It's going to be changed games. I think what we want to do this is the changed games in the changed games list. I think we want to output the title. Now, I am only going to use the new game here because when we're selecting the games, we are using the title, which means when we're looking for changed games, we will never find one with a changed title because that would either show up in removed or added new games. So what we're going to do, we're going to output the game title. What we can do, actually, it's not nice, but we can do it. So if changed games that you're the old.url doesn't equal change games new entry.url, we can tab this across, go old URL colon old entry.url new entry.url. So if the URLs don't match, I believe we can output the old URL followed by the new URL. So now what we can do is, if the old Series X FPS doesn't equal the new Series X FPS, we can output the old and new Series X FPS. We can do the same for Series S FPS. And what was the other thing? That was the other thing. The dot off by default. Boom, boom, boom. Just add some spacing in here. Just make this nice and human readable. Now here, I'll output it. So this is where I would make it go to Twitter, or I would make it message me in Slack. I'll probably do that offline, but if I run this, we should see a good summary. So new games, we got Watch Dogs 2. We got removed games, Untitled Goose Game. Then we got change games. So we see that... we see that... Oh, I'm missing something here. This needs a title. Getting all sorts of information about the COVID updates for today buzz through on my wrist. Okay, so we got new games, Watch Dogs 2, removed games, Untitled Goose Game, we got changed games, we got totally reliable delivery service. We can see that this value changed from true to false. And then here we have 2 Point Hospital. That went from 120 to 60. I mean, I would like it to output, 120 hertz, but this is fine. Yeah, that's fine, I guess. Cool. Now what's going to happen though is if I run this again, it's going to output it again. So what we want to do, actually, we can set the output message to this. Just because I don't want it to be null and dangling around as null. So we'll see this output message here. Cool. So yeah, as you can see, it does it every time. This here is checking. So let's also set this else. We're going to set the output.message to no changes detected. And cool. All right. So yeah, we're not going to see that because we have changes. And this is where this last bit comes in, where we modify this, where we're going to serialize the JSON of the new game, of the live games list, which is the one we loaded from the internet. And we're going to write it out to games.json s3.json. So that way when we run it a second time, it'll be updated. I think that's how that works. Yeah, so we'll run it. We get the report of the new games. We'll run it again, and we should get no games changed. There we go, no changes detected. And why do we have one warning? Okay. I don't like any warnings, so we'll fix that one up. So that's, mostly good to go. To do notify. Do we have any other to-dos laying around that we forgot to do? To do upload to S3. Yep. I'll do another to-do. What was that? Interesting. Just saw something weird happening on stream. Anyway, the other to do is when we load the existing list, which is here. to do. We're going to download from S3. And I think that's it. Like, let's tidy that one up. I will have a async task sent to Slack message. And so we're going to take a string Slack webhook URL string message. So I will add in my own private Slack webhook URL. Maybe there's a Discord message or something. We can message Discord. But for now, I believe we can do the S3 stuff. So let me see. What do we need to do? Got the Lambda. Yeah. So I just hide my stream. Just so that way, in case any passwords or anything show on the screen, you're all not going to see them. Let's just check how to log into Amazon. I am also going to check. Yeah, okay, Amazon's not set up here. So I am gonna set up Amazon. This is like the hold music, just, hey, please just wait. I'm also gonna go. So what I'm doing on the screen that I hope isn't showing on my glasses is I'm gonna set up a AWS user so I can upload things from my computer. Let me just, all right, so I'm creating an AWS user. So I'm getting the key ID, the key secret, and we're setting up the region. It's AP Southeast 2, and then output format is JSON. I'm just gonna open up AWS. So fix that up, get rid of that, get rid of that. And I think it's almost safe to show my screen again. Yes. Almost. Let me just double check S3. Cool. All right. Let's close all these tabs we don't need. Now, All right, so we got Lambda. We are going to need a deploy script for Lambda. So we're going to go into projects, and then we're going to go into, what did we call our thing? It's like the FPS Boost Notifier. I'm going to just make a deploy.sh. So what I like to do is I like to have just a nice, easy way to deploy my Lambda functions. And this is pretty much my boilerplate deploy script. You don't save on that. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know how to deploy AWS Lambda. Lambda tutorial. So again, this is one of those things. You just go to Google and remember the pages you went to previously and remember how to get back to them. So we got .NET test. It's something like deploy function is the thing I'm looking for. How do you deploy? Please show me. Deployment package. .NET CLI. Create. Yep, no, we know this one. Deploy. This is the one I'm looking for. Alright, so we're gonna do this. Deploy function. Role. Profile. Now, I believe I don't need to do anything else there. So if we run this, it's going to go in, it's going to deploy. Couldn't execute. So, okay, we don't have the AWS. Real? Apparently we don't have the AWS tools installed, which is this one. So we're going to run this. Boom. Just output that to the path. So now we try deploy again. So it's going to complain of a few things. It's going to probably complain. Yeah, we don't have a region, we don't have a role, we don't have many stuff. So this is a nice little fun try again. So I'm going to deploy there. We need a function name, which I know is function name. What else am I missing? Function role. So we try deploy again. We'll see what happens. Create a new Lambda function. I don't think it's going to let me create a role. We'll see. Just want to call it that. No, I don't have permission to do that. That's fine. So what we are going to do is create a new entry function -role. That. Now we can actually go to AWS here. I am gonna just duck you away briefly. Pretty sure this is safe, but just in case. So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new role. It's going to be a lambda role. It is going to have like basic lambda execute role permissions. It's going to be called FPS Boost Notifier role. And now that that's created, if we deploy again, hopefully it goes all the way to Lambda. The AWS is creating, boom, function created. So now we can go have a look at Lambda. Here we go. So the Lambda functions here. You can see here it was deployed 18 seconds ago. It was 93 kilobytes. So I guess the next thing is we want to add permission so it can access S3 and read and write those files that we said. So once again, it's gonna cut you out there. I'm gonna create a folder. So I'm just creating a folder in my known S3 buckets. It's just going to be called FPS Boost. I will copy the details out to this blank text file. All right, let's come back in. So this is my S3 bucket that we're going to put the files. So we need to give FPS Boost Notifier permission to write to this file. I'm gonna rush through this because this isn't a S3 Amazon tutorial. Roles. And I do just want to get this up and running. I will probably tidy it up later. So we're going to do, now we're trying to create the role. So what we want to be able to do is put object and get object. I believe they are called. And put object, get object. Put object, get object on S3. So let's have a look. We have S3. We want to be able to get object. Boom. And we also want to be able to put object and put object ACL. Put object, put objects. Is that not a permission? Is it? Put object tagging. Weird. Maybe I got that wrong. We are going to lock down permission. So here we can see the bucket is myfiles.bradmore.com. And we are going to... Ooh, hey. Let's try that again. So this should allow us to read and write any file in this directory. What did we call our thingy again? called it FPS Boost Notifier. So we're going to call this FPS Boost Notifier S3. Created. So that means now our Lambda function has the ability to read and write to S3. So if I steal this away from you again. I'm just gonna. Oh, interesting. I do have some other files that I want to do, but they are on my other user account. So I am just going to quickly copy them out. Yep, don't need that, don't need that. I do need to... What do I need to do? The other one is... This is the best part of the show, is when you can't see anything that I'm doing, but I want you to know it's fun and secretive. Pretty sure it goes here. So what I am doing, I should tell you what I'm doing. I am creating words are difficult when I have a million things going on at once. I'm creating a way that we can run on my computer the code we just wrote with the same permission that it's going to have in Lambda. Now, I think I've set that up almost. I think I've almost set it up. One thing I want to do is just make sure that I didn't do that. I'm going to edit this. I will bring you back to being able to see the screen in a second. Because it's more of, I don't know how much of this you're allowed to see. And I don't want to get my account hacked or hijacked or anything like that. And you can come back for this one. There is a setting I'm looking for where you can assume the role of another user, and I forget the JSON because it's hard to remember, but it's something like this. This roles, no. Yeah, this one. This is what it is. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put my account name in here. And I'm going to apply this to the other role, so that way my account can assume the role. And if everything goes good, we'll come back and we'll be able to see me getting access to S3. And then we can jump back into the code, as opposed to just looking around like a stunned mullet. I think that goes there, that goes there. This is that. This goes in here. No peeking off my glasses. If I update this policy, yep, that looks like it worked. And then, alrighty. One last thing was, for that new role we created, what did we call it? FPS Boost Notifier role. We didn't give it the custom policy we made. I don't know if I showed you that, probably not. So I'm just going to attach that. And then that's good. That's good. That's good. Close that, hide that, delete that. Alrighty. Come back. So what I want to do now is I want to run the runner as my role. And I know this because we have AWS profile and we want to give it this role name. Should this all be capital? Maybe. AWS profile. Alrighty. So we're just going to assume that everything I just did is going to work first time, which means it most definitely will not. So now we want to add the S3 SDK. So S3, which I've thrown around a whole bunch, is Amazon's way to store files online, essentially. So what we are going to try to do is, when this adds, I guess we can start doing it now. Gonna do it here. So let's see how much of this I can do from memory, because I've done it a million times. I don't think much at all. We want to create a new S3 client. That's not it. What is it? Is it an Amazon S3 client? Yes. And then we want to put it in AP Southeast 2, which is Sydney, Australia. So now we want to, S3 client, we want to put object async. So what does this want? This wants a put object request. So we want to create a new put object async request. Or is just put object request? Or does request need to be spelled properly? There we go. So I'm going to assume we're going to have bucket name. And that is this one. It should be like a key, I believe. And this should be FPS Boost / config.json or current.json. Let's go current.json. And then how do we put the data here? Content body. Let's get test. And so now what we should be able to do, put object result equals 08. So now what this should do is when I execute the code, it's going to run with the same permission that our Lambda function has. It's going to create an S3 client in the AP Southeast 2 region. It's going to create a request to put an object, and we're going to put test into FPS Boost / current.json. Now, test isn't valid JSON, but things don't care about that. So let's run and let's see what happens. Nothing has happened yet. I assume this is a bad thing. The file didn't come out the other side. Oh. This thing. I don't know why this is a problem, but AWS SDK.security token could not be found. I don't know why it's not a dependency. So, oops. A NuGet package. So we want to add AWS SDK.security. Security token. Boom. Nice chill music today. Alrighty, that is now added. So let's stop and start this again. Can I I can't click my pads to see, but I'm going to assume that because we stopped here, that this is a-okay. So while I restart Visual Studio to get rid of this bug, which I'm going to report later. Oh, that's annoying. Let's refresh. We have the thing. Can we open it? Can we download it? Why aren't you opening? No, don't open in Xcode. What's wrong with you? But there's test. So we now have permission to write a file online, and you can access it at home if you type that out. Maybe. Actually, we can probably. This probably works. Yep. Boom. Alrighty. So we know this works. We want to move this. We want to put this down into here. We will want just one S3 client. So where do we load? This is where we download. We're almost there, people. We're almost finished. Am I putting using around this? I don't know. I like usings. I think I use them too much. No. Well, what I can do though is I can change this to squigglies. And then I can get rid of these. I can change these to commas. I can tab this across. Put this here. We can write the games JSON to here. So yeah, just gonna do this. I'm gonna put a try catch here. You know what? If it crashes, it crashes. All right. So that was just going to be just in case we couldn't write. We'll do something, but we're not going to worry about that. So we do want to. What we do want to do is actually copy the code for the put object request, because the get object request is probably going to be very similar. We are going to remove this. So once we get the object, how do we get the text out of it? Alright, so I'm going back to Google. Get object response. Get text. C#. I believe I'm going to need a stream reader. I believe that's what does what I want. So let's go back here. All right. So using var stream reader equals new stream reader get object response dot stream response stream, and we can go stream reader dot read to end async string old JSON data equals dish. Now, so what we are trying to do is we are trying to load the previous games list. So what I am going to do is I am going to create a new, I'm going to define it here. I'm going to make it null. So then through this, I'm going to try and get it. And then here, if the previous games list equals null, I'm just going to create a new previous games list equals new this game. So at least that way our stuff is going to keep going. What we can also do, this needs to be awaited. So let's have a look what's going on here. So we created an S3 client in Sydney. Our previous games list is null. So we come into the try catch. We're going to try get FPS Boost / current from this bucket. Then with this response, we are going to get object async. So we're going to try get the object. And then with the stream we get, we're going to try read the game data to a string. And then we are going to try deserialize that string into our object array here, previous games list. This will probably throw an exception, and that's fine because at the moment this just contains the word test. And then this here is just like, couldn't load it, so it's going to be a blank one. So then what that will do is we will run through our thing. We will see that every game is a new game. We will get notified of that. And then this should get written to S3. And then when we run it a second time, everything should be okay. Fingers crossed. Yep, so here's all of the new games. If we go to this, if we reload this, here's the JSON of all of the games. And now if we run it again, no changes. Not sure why this is output. Just Just going to pretend I didn't see that not on the right line. But that's good. That's good, good, good. So just a few things I want to change here. I want to... What was my thing? I had something for send Slack message. So what I want to do is here. Send Slack message. Could not load FPS Boost / current.json with the error message. Cool. So for some reason, I should await this. If for some reason we can't load the file, I'll get notified on my Slack, which is good. And then what I also want is here, instead of console.writeLine, I want to just send this straight to Slack. So now, when we have new games, I'll get Slack notified, and I can reach out and post it online if needed. And then the file will be updated. So this here isn't doing anything yet. We don't have the implementation, so we're just going to await task.delay 50, sure. Just so we have no errors or anything there. Just going to make sure there's builds. We have one warning. What is... Yep, that's fine. So now what we're going to do... Don't know why this is the white one. Give me the black terminal. There we go. So we're going to go into projects, FPS Boost Notifier. We're going to run deploy. We're almost finished. So FPS Boost Notifier is up. So now the last bit of magic from S3, which we can actually test this here. So let's create a test. We can see this ran fine in S3. There was no what do you call it? There was no permissions errors or anything like that. So now what we want to do is we want to go to CloudWatch. It's my window not centered. There we go. We want to create a new event. We want to schedule it. Fixed rate of I'm going to assume this is going to run in UTC time. It's all schedule events are UTC. All right, so let's clear up some tabs. All right, so what we want to do is we want to use a cron expression here because I want it to be at 7 a.m. local time for me. So what we want to do is go to time zone converter. Is this the one I like? Yes, it is. So let's add Melbourne. That's where I am. Let's add UTC. So we want to do at 7 a.m. Boom. So 7 a.m. is going to be 2100 hours in UTC time. So now we also want to go to crontab.guru. Now, a crontab or a cron thing is or at least the time part of the cron, is these 5 numbers. So the first one is at every minute, at every hour of every day of every month of week. So you can see this cron here says it's going to run at 4:05. So if we create a random one, my god, they're also complicated. So this one will run at minute 5 of hour 4 on every day of the month for every month on Sunday. So every Sunday this will run at 4:05. So if we were to change this to 1, now this will run on every Sunday in January. Boom. So we want it to run every month, every day. And we want it to run at the 0th hour. And we want it to, 0th minute and the 21st hour. 21. Boop. So that's our cron. I never remember the order these go in. It's very weird to me. I guess it makes sense because it's minute, hour, so they're incrementing. Cool. So we're going to run at this expression. We are going to run FPS Boost Notifier. And we're going to call this FPS Boost Notifier. I always go back and copy and paste names because I will typo it 100% of the time. Run. And we're done. We're going to call this run FPS Boost Notifier every morning at 7 a.m. AEST. So now, Major Nelson, whenever you update your webs, oh, we're so close. It was error saving this. Parameter schedule expression is not valid. Well, Major Nelson, you win this round. Details parameter schedule expression is not valid. Is this not valid? Schedule. Why not? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Why do they want 6? Oh, this website here probably tells me why they want 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, they let you run it every year as well. Cool, so can do one of that. Constant JSON, I'm pretty sure square brackets. So now if we try save. Damn it, so close. Schedule expression is not valid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Why? Fields. Why is this one question mark? What's going on here? Okay, so you cannot use asterisks in both day of the month and day of the week fields. If you use it in one, you must use question mark in the other. Interesting. Whoa. Tell you what, I'm going to be so notified. It's done. So that should be it. So now if Major Nelson updates his website and he adds Forza Horizon 2, because we want that to have FPS Boost, I will get notified. And then I can reach out on Twitter and let everyone else know. For a second there, I was going to say this isn't the complete list, then all this would have been mostly for nothing. But good thing it's not. Awesome. And yeah, I'm also here checking if all of a sudden some of these games get updated. I'll also be notified. And at 3 hours, I think that concludes this stream. I think we accomplished a lot. I am going to go and offline. I am going to... What am I going to do? I'm going to go and... implement this Slack message. And I am going to go and commit this to GitHub. I'll go make a public GitHub repo, and you can see that on github.com/bradmore/FPSBoost Notifier. It would be awful if I found out this was typoed right now. But yeah, that's there. I'll go full send on that. And that should be it. So thank you, people, for tuning in. I'll be uploading this to YouTube as soon as I can. Look forward to doing more streams in the future. Until then, have a good one.